Please stand. Almighty God, we pray for your blessing upon this council, help and prosper its work for the advancement and benefit of its people, so that peace and happiness, unity and justice may be established amongst us all. Amen. Amen. Manningham Council acknowledges the Wurundjeri Wurrung people as the traditional owners of land and waterways that is now known as Manningham. Council pays respects to elders past, present and emerging and values the ongoing contribution to enrich and appreciate the cultural heritage of Manningham. Council acknowledges and respects Australia's First People as the traditional owners of lands and waterways across country and encourages reconciliation between all. Manningham Council also would like to acknowledge the contribution made to Manningham over the years by people of diverse backgrounds and cultures. I welcome all members of the public joining us online to observe proceedings. As with all council meetings, we are taking questions from the public and encourage you to submit your questions in accordance with our normal practice. Our CEO will read out any question received tonight and a response will be provided where we have the information at hand. If we're unable to provide a meaningful response, we will take your question on notice and provide a response in writing. We will deal with a maximum of 2 questions per person and 2 questions on any one issue. If you have more than 2 questions, please submit these additional questions in writing through normal channels. Council meetings are conducted in accordance with our governance rules. I will introduce each item of business as listed on the agenda, calling it by number and by reading the title. I will then call for a mover and a seconder on the item before opening any debate. Any councillors are able to join the debate on any item. Councillors may adopt the officer's recommendation in the report or propose amendments or supplementary motions. Item number 2, apologies and requests for leave of absence. There are no apologies. Item number 3, prior notification of conflict of interest. I have received 3 written disclosures of conflicts of interest from Councillor Deirdre Del Monte for item 9.1 concerning planning application PLN 20/0544 at 15 Glendale Avenue, Templestowe. The interest being a general conflict of interest as she lives close proximity to 15 Glendale Avenue. Councillor Carly Lang for item 10.2 concerning the endorsement of nominations for the Manningham Youth Advisory Committee. The interest being both a material and general conflict of interest due to a family member applying to join the committee. Director of City Services Rochelle Quadrocki for item 17.1 concerning the South East Metropolitan Advanced Waste Processing Project. The interest being a material conflict of interest due to her role as an interim board member of the South East Metropolitan Waste Processing Proprietary Limited. Councillors, would anyone like to give notice of conflict of interest? No. Item point 4, confirmation of minutes. Do I have a mover?
I move that the minutes of the council meeting held on 14 December 2021 be confirmed.
Councillor De Monte. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Conlon. Councillor De Monte? Councillor Conlon? I'll put that to a vote. All those in favour? Carried. Item number 5, presentations. 5.1, passing of former councillor Clive Pick. Councillors, it is with deep sadness that I must inform you of the recent passing of former councillor Clive Pick. Clive served as a councillor from 1992 to 1994. Clive's passion for community focused on multicultural causes and campaigns. He also enjoyed getting involved in local grassroots movements and the Manningham business community. As a councillor, Clive was dedicated to Templestowe Village and helping meet the needs of its traders. He was also a great advocate and promoter of Bulleens Venator Club, where he served as an ambassador to the club for well over 2 decades. Do I have a mover?
Madam Mayor, I'll move the motion.
Councillor Goff. Do I have a seconder?
A seconder?
Councillor Chen.
Madam Mayor, I move that Council place on record its sadness at the passing of Mr Clive Pick, record its appreciation for the contribution by Mr Clive Pick to the Manningham Council and the broader community, and extend its sympathy and condolences to Mr Pick's family at this very difficult time.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor, did you have anything further to say?
No.
Councillor Chen? Just before we put that to a vote, I'd just like to say that I knew Clive personally, and when I first became a councillor, he was one of the first former councillors that I had met. And as part of my journey, he was a man that I was very fond of. He always had a great thirst and a great hunger to know local matters well beyond his councillor years, and it's with great sadness that I won't see his smiling, jovial face. And at many functions that we would have, he'd be here. And I remember a few years back, a wonderful celebration that we had of 50 years, I think it was, of celebrating Doncaster and Templestowe. And Clive was there, and that was probably one of the last times. So sadly missed, and but never forgotten. So with that being said, I'll put that to a vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 5.2, Australia Day Honours 2022. I'd like to acknowledge a Templestowe resident who received an award in this year's Australia Day's Honours list. Lee Nam Lee OAM for service to the Paralympics and a gold medalist. Congratulations. 5.3, Winter Olympics silver medalist Scotty James. On behalf of Council, I'd like to acknowledge and congratulate Warrandyte-born Scotty James, who won silver medal in the men's snowboard high half-pipe finals at the recent Beijing Winter Olympics 2022. The four-time Olympian was the youngest male Olympian in 50 years when competing at his first Olympics in 2010. Scotty has been an active role model and mentor within his sport and a great ambassador for winter sports and the sporting community. Item 6, petitions. There are no petitions. Item 7, question time, public question time. We have received a number of questions for tonight's council meeting. At this time, anyone submitting a question to council will have their question read out by our CEO. Our first question tonight is from Meg Downey.
Thank you, Mayor. Question number 1. I have recently been walking my dog in 100 acres because of its gravel paths. However, it is like an obstacle course with so many fallen trees covering the tracks. I recently saw council staff removing some dead trees along Nees Road. When will council clean up trees blocking paths in 100 acres?
Do you want to do the second question?
I'm happy to ask the second question. And the second question, because it's the same director who'll be responding, I think. The open space beside the FOMDAC rooms at 53 to 55 Oranga Crescent seems to be a magnet for undesirable nocturnal activities. Rubbish, e.g. drink cans, alcohol soda, stream vials, regularly dumped on occasions. There are people sleeping rough. Previously, our past president cleaned it up, but it's not our responsibility, and this is something I'm not prepared to do. In November, and again this month, I've had to contact the police. What will council do to control rubbish dumping and make it safer for people to exit the rooms at night?
Thank you. I'll refer that to Rochelle Quadrocki, Director for City Services, to respond.
Thank you, Meg Downey, for your question. Regular maintenance, in relation to question 1 regarding 100 acres, regular maintenance is conducted within 100 acres bushland reserve. Parks maintenance crews are currently working through a backlog of tree requests from recent storms in January and late last year, and are attending to all tree debris requests as soon as practical. This request has been noted and alerted for action to the Parks team. An update on the progress of these works will be provided to you directly once available. Thank you. In relation to question 2, dumped rubbish is addressed across Manningham by both our compliance team and open space management teams. Should dumped rubbish be causing an ongoing issue, residents are encouraged to report it to council and lodging a customer request. Then it will be assigned to the clean-up crew to respond. Ongoing engagement and education is also an important focus of ours to prevent dumping of rubbish across our city. Security of open areas is also a police matter. However, the council continues to work in partnership with police to address any antisocial and community safety matters. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question tonight is from Helen Jerkovic, OAM.
Thank you, Mayor. With the number of ethnic senior clubs in Manningham, possibly 15 plus, some of whom have memberships well over 100 members in many of the clubs, considering council has $90+ million in the bank and being debt-free, would council provide a dedicated seniors club community bus as well, so as to guarantee the seniors club members will be picked up and taken home from their weekly activity?
I'll ask Niall Sheedy, Acting Director of City Planning and Community, to answer.
Thank you for your question. Council is in the process of rolling out a trial of the supported transport service. The trial will introduce alternative ways to link patrons to places. The trial will operate until December 2022. Throughout this period, we will continuously evaluate the service, which will inform Council on the best way forward to assist older residents of Manningham to be better connected. Officers will report back to Council and the community once the trial commences, and we evaluate key findings.
Thank you. Our next question tonight is from Saman Collier.
Thank you, Mayor. And just for the clarification of the public, this relates to a home business complaint. When there is a rule and it clearly tells that this business cannot keep the garage open during and between the sessions, why, despite raising 3 cases and spending almost a year, has Manningham Council not asked the home business to obey the existing rule? How can I get a formal response from Manningham Council to provide it to the EPA VCAT for further follow-up?
I'll refer that to Niall Sheedy, Acting Director of City Planning and Community.
Thank you for your question. In response to your first query, the relevant part of the planning scheme that relates to home businesses is set by the state government. This provision does not include any prescriptive criteria in regards to buffer distances or noise emissions. Instead, officers must take a subjective analysis when investigating complaints in regards to home businesses. In response to the concerns raised, officers attended both properties and observed the activity occurring on your neighbour's land from within your dwelling. Having observed this activity, officers concluded that there was no breach to the planning scheme with regards to home-based businesses. Therefore, Council is unable to require that the garage door in the adjoining home business be closed during operation. To follow up on the verbal advice already provided from investigating officers, written advice will be provided which confirms the findings of the investigation into your concerns.
Thank you. And our next question tonight is from Gaspar Lay. Gaspar Lay.
Thank you, Mayor. I have emailed our council with pictures and videos in regards to illegal parking, loading during school time at the school zone at Cassowary Street, Doncaster East. But the situation has gone from bad to worse. The situation creates dangers to residents, students and drivers. This situation will only get worse as there are 2 active sites starting and 3 extra sites will be starting soon within 15 blocks distance to the school, in total 5. While the planning department keeps issuing permits to developers, which is destroying our environment. Any planning to improve the traffic around school area due to so many townhouses were permitted and the number of cars has increased dramatically. What can you do to improve this situation? Will you introduce some restrictions and penalties, especially to the sites which are close to the schools?
Thank you. I'll get Niall Shee, Acting Director of City Planning and Community.
Thank you for your question. Construction work in close proximity to the school has exacerbated traffic conditions within the school precinct. Parking restrictions apply to the northern side of Cassowary Street between Blackburn Road and Devon Drive. No parking is allowed between 8:30 and 9:15 in the morning and 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. in the afternoon in order to facilitate safe two-way traffic flow during these periods. In addition, restrictions along the Blackburn Road service lane are also being reviewed, along with a footpath to encourage walking. Manningham officers will continue to monitor the area and will take appropriate action if vehicles are observed to be parked unlawfully.
Thank you. Item number 8, any items of urgent business? There are no items of urgent business. Item number 9, planning permit applications. 9.1, planning application PLN 20/0544 at 15 Glendale Avenue, Templestowe, for the construction of 6 two-storey dwellings.
Madam Mayor and councillors, I wish to disclose that I have a conflict of interest in this item, the interest being a general conflict of interest, as I live in close proximity to 15 Glendale Avenue, so I'll be leaving the chamber for the duration of this matter.
Thank you. Do I have a mover? Councillor Chen.
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Goff. Councillor Chen. Nothing to speak. Councillor Goff.
Madam Mayor, I will get up and say a few words about this. This particular site, from what I believe, did come up to council a couple of years ago, and we refused it, and I think at the time it was 8 developments, 8 units, 2-storey units on the block. And it was basically butted up wall to wall, but one of the other things that was a great issue with this particular site was the fact that there were single-car garages in that proposal, and that did create a bit of an anomaly with being able to use both of the spots in the garages there. Indeed, there are people around that would say that it's not a suitable area for higher density. However, it is a DD08 area that is in our planning scheme. I am correct, I hope, Mr. Shee. It is, yeah, a DD08 area there, and as such, it's areas that we've said that we wanted some higher development to go into. It will always remain an issue at Manningham when there is higher density, that car movement and car parking does add it into a bit of a premium there, because in this particular proposal, as I was looking through, it shows that there aren't any extra car parks in that development. It's the 12 car parks, that's 2 for each unit, which is good, but visitors would be parking somewhere else. It's an area that we've said it's close to Templestowe Village. It's very close to the the shopping centre and the other life that is walkable, even though it is up a hill, but it is walkable. The area has been attached to that, and because it has that on its title, and all of the properties around there do, it has actual rights to be able to develop to that sort of level. This is a far greater improvement than the one that did come up on the 19th, and I support the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Any speakers against? Put that to a vote. Those in favour? Carried. May I ask for Councillor Del Monte to please return? Thank you. Thank you. Item 9.2, planning application to VCAT under section 87A of the Planning and Environment Act 1987 for an amendment to planning permit PL 17/027403 at 181 Reynolds Road, Doncaster East, The Pines. VCAT reference number P11848/2021. PL 17/027403 was issued for the use and development of the land for a retirement village and dwellings within a multi-storey development also containing car parking, communal facilities and retail and office tenancies, and the creation and alteration of access to a road in a road zone category 1. Do I have a mover?
I'd like to, thank
Councillor Conlon.
I'd like to move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
I second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Councillor Conlon.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillors, this is a fairly straightforward amendment. Previous council approved this, the application. It's gone, and now they're asking for an amendment so that they can, I guess, make it work better for the developer. And I note our office has done a great deal of work in ensuring that the amendments do suit the development, including knocking back a couple of the requests or asking for modifications. But the proposed amendment doesn't result in any significant changes to the layout or the appearance of this development. It also suggests a change to the staging of the development, which will actually ensure that we have adequate car parking during the construction period. So that's a positive. The amendment to the layout of access, the car parking, is minor and won't actually change the overall function of that. But given the substantial presence of retail already in the centre, the deletion of 3 retail premises is probably reasonable. I note the overall reduction of 4 car parking spaces is acceptable because they're well and truly over the minimum car parking requirement. I do note that with the changes in the layout in terms of the number of bedrooms per unit, etc., it should be less pressure on car parking anyway, I would imagine. So I think it's pretty straightforward, and I do thank the officers for taking the time to make sure that the amendment is an improvement effectively, particularly around the ramps, making sure that they look carefully at the way the ramps work with that car park. So I commend this amendment.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Councillor Chen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My colleague, Councillor Collins, summed up nicely, but I just add a couple points about the positive outcome from the modification. And one is the type of the dwellings, and especially 1 bedroom. For example, 1 bedroom was increased and from original plan 0 to 4, and 1 bedroom plus study, which all know that it is very important from our COVID experience from 20 to 34. And more, also 2 bedrooms plus 2 bedrooms increase from 35 to 53. And another positive modification was about the community benefit. And regarding the offer and maintenance, we asked the owner must offer and maintain from Blackburn Road space with a minimum area which has been increased from the original to 134 square meters now for lease for 80% of the market value for a minimum terms of 10 years, which just basically for community use, which is a amazing achievement, and that has been worked very hard through the whole process by our officers. So I think overall this is a positive outcome, given that the Pines shopping center is growing, and especially we can all witness the growing development of apartments around the Pines shopping center. So I think that is the outcome we will expect. So overall, a very good, positive modifications. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Any speakers against? Let's put that to a vote. Those in favour? Unanimously carried. Put my glasses on, shall I? Item 10, City Planning and Community, 10.1, Planning Scheme Amendment, C127 MAN, and Planning Permit Application, PLN 20/0303 at 674 to 680 Doncaster Road, 2 Short Street, and 14A, 16 and 18 Hepburn Road, Doncaster Church of Christ. Consideration of panel report. Do I have a mover? Councillor Laura Mayne.
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
Second the motion.
Councillor Stephen Mayne. Councillor Laura Mayne.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This will be the final time that this application comes to Council after a long and detailed process following this procedure that didn't take an amendment to the planning scheme lightly. This report that has come to Council details the findings of the independent panel appointed by the Minister, which considers the amendment in relation to the development of the Church of Christ Doncaster site. The panel has recommended that the amendment to be adopted with a few small changes and with full support of the increased affordable housing. This increase to 14 dwellings was definitely a big success and something I would love to repeat and keep seeing across Doncaster Hill and Manningham more broadly, which we will be hearing about through our affordable housing strategy that will come to Council shortly. The panel noted that the height increase was appropriate for the building and will suit the area skyline, and that the quality architecture, together with the surrounding development, will help mark this area as an activity centre for our community to enjoy. For a reminder, this application is unique to the area as it does offer a 600-person auditorium, community space, a childcare centre, heritage frontage and more. This has been a long, rigid and proper process which I would like to think has been transparent with our community and is going to offer some great community facilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mayne. Councillor Stephen Mayne.
Nothing to add.
Thank you. Any speakers against? Put that to a vote. Those in favour? Unanimously carried. Councillors, if I can just ask that you keep your hands up for the duration. I sort of see it and I'm sure that I get them, but just for me, because it's not as easy with the wide room. Thank you. Some of you are too quick. 10.2, endorsement of nominations for Manningham Youth Advisory Committee.
Madam Mayor and councillors, I wish to disclose that I have a conflict of interest in this item, the interest being both material and general conflict of interest due to a family member applying to join the committee. I will be leaving the chamber for the duration of this matter.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Do I have a mover for that motion?
I move
Councillor Romain.
that the recommendation be adopted.
Do I have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Anna Chen. Councillor Romain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm so happy to endorse the nominations for the Manningham new Youth Advisory Committee, and I'm so excited to start collaborating with this group. After reading through the applications, I'm confident we have a capable, diverse and interesting group of young people on offer who are going to provide some great insight to the council. On top of this, it will also provide this group with great experience of being a part of a committee, learning about proper processes, good governance, teamwork and their community. This committee has been something that I've been really looking forward to joining council, and I can't wait to see what initiatives they come up with and the different perspectives they will offer. Of course, those who are unsuccessful, please look for feedback about your application, apply for the role again in the future, and don't stop getting out there and involved with your community. And for the members of the new committee listening, I look forward to working with you, and I will see you very soon. Thank you.
Lovely. Councillor Chen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to say a few things as well. We all know that councillors are in the front line of community engagement and are best placed to understand the particular interests faced by our constituents. But getting young people more actively involved in issues which affect them is challenging. The civic participation gap always concerns me. So full credit goes to Councillor Collin and my fellow councillors when the Youth Advisory Committee initiative was first raised in late 2020. Councillor Collin was the mayor at the time, and council endorsed the formation of the Youth Advisory Committee on 28th of September 2021. It was a very significant decision because it will be the first Youth Advisory Committee in Manningham Council. Since then, our staff have been actively engaged in recruitment campaigns, and 21 applications with diverse spread of skills and interests were received. So a selection panel was established, and 30 members aged between 16 and 25 years were selected to provide a balance of gender, abilities, and interests. The term of appointment is, of course, just for 1 year. And Councillor Laura Mann had congratulated successful members, and this is a great opportunity to learn about local councils and to influence decision makings and setting priorities. This is also an opportunity to prove that young people are experts of your own experience to stakeholders and the society. So for those who miss out, I'm sure that you will all receive tailored, constructive feedback from council, and we all look forward to receiving your applications next time. And for those successful applicants, and Councillor Laura Mann and I look forward to seeing you at the first committee meeting held at this chamber, council chamber, on the 9th March this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any speakers against? I'll put that to a vote. Those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Can you please return Councillor Lang to the chamber? Thank you. Item 11, City Services. There are no city service reports. Item 12, Experience and Capability. 12.1, Manningham Quarterly Report, Quarter 2, October to December 2021. Do I have a mover?
So moved, Mayor.
Councillor Stephen Mayne. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Jeff Goff. Councillor Stephen Mayne.
Mayor, I'd just like to start with a question for the officers, if that's okay. Just like to ask the CEO, noting that the $59 million capital works budget is only $14.5 million spent in the first 6 months of the year. Does management have any plans to bring an update to a future council meeting to potentially rejig or update the capital works budget and attempt to ensure we can spend as much as the 59 million as possible.
Thank you for the question, councillor. Yes, it's a real challenge for all industries at the moment, businesses to complete capital works program because of the challenges with accessing materials and services and the like. We've certainly done a great job in getting 90% of the program done over the past couple of years in COVID conditions, but this year is certainly biting. So we do intend to bring a report to council, hopefully in March at the latest April, to give an update and provide some options in terms of recalibrating the capital program.
Thank you. So just a few brief comments on the quarterly report. I think it does confirm once again that we're in a very healthy position. The operating surplus is 4 million favourable to budget. There's been a couple of elements there, 2.44 million in grants, that's unexpected, and things like 802,000 in quarry royalties, which weren't budgeted for. There were some other downsides, such as fines being 737 million under budget, mainly because of COVID lockdowns and our parking inspectors not being able to upset as many motorists parking their cars as usual with parking fines. So pleased to see some of the transparency requests that we've asked for coming through. So we now have the detailed list on page 7 of all the open space contributions that we've received for the first 6 months of the year. It's quite an impressive list. If you look at the largest one there, 7 Tuscany Rise in Templestowe, we've received $340,000 in cash, which is terrific as we contemplate how we can diversify away from an over-reliance on rates revenue. So what was that? That was a Catholic Church retreat for the Marist province, I think it was called. It was there for 45 years. It was 37,000 acres. They've bought an alternative site in Sunset Avenue around the corner, and they're subdividing this site, and it's going to be 8 acre lots, and the 5% valuation of that was 340,000. So it's a good policy where any subdivision above 3 lots, we get 5% of the valuation at subdivision. And it's great to see all the individual addresses laid out in the report, and it's a very handy revenue stream, which we will then dedicate to spending on improving our open space. Another interesting new disclosure is the cash holdings. So the quarterly report notes that we've got a cash balance of 96 million as at December 31. I think that's the largest of any council in Victoria. And there's a good chart there showing the spread of where our cash is held. So our largest holding is with the Commonwealth Bank. They've got 33% of our cash. I must admit, after they've closed the third of their 5 branches in Manningham in the last 2 years, they've just closed the Bulleen branch, having earlier closed the Tunstall Square and the Macedon Square branch. I'm starting to think whether we really should have 33% of our cash with the Commonwealth Bank, given that they're withdrawing services to our community like that. It's interesting that we don't have any of our funds with the Bendigo Bank. I think there has been deliberations and discussions in the past, and it'll be interesting to see if we can diversify to have some of our funds go there. So overall, I think it's a really good, transparent report. As was intimated in the question, the biggest challenge we've got, obviously, is spending our capital works budget at 59 million. So we've added a $15 million figure to our 10-year forecast in terms of capital works. So 59 million is a record. It is difficult to spend it in COVID. We do have levers we could pull. We haven't spent any of the 5 million budget that we have for property acquisitions. So we did look at one property but voted not to proceed. So we do have levers that we can potentially pull, and I'm looking forward to seeing the March or April report as to how we can tweak things and try and make sure we spend as much of that 59 million as possible. But well done to the officers and all the councillors who've been before to leave Manningham in such a strong financial position, which gives us plenty of cash to respond to community needs and capital requirements as they emerge.
Thank you, Councillor May. And Councillor Goff.
Madam Mayor, I just want a clarification of, was it 70 or 700,000?
No, I think accidentally Councillor Main said I think 70 million unfavourable in fines, but it's more like 7. Yeah.
Yes, okay.
You said million. I just wanted to
Oh,
clarify that
I
because
was looking
people
forward
might
to the
think-
jackpot. But Madam Mayor, no, I've got nothing to further to add. It was a very, very good summary. Thank you.
Thank you. Any speakers against? Let's put that to a vote. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Item 13, Chief Executive Officer, 13.1, Suburban Rail Loop Project Stage 1 Environmental Effects Statement Submission. Do I have a mover? Councillor Chen.
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor.
Madam Mayor, I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Councillor Chen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We all know that Manningham is the only municipality in metropolitan Melbourne without a tram or train line. Commuters have waited decades for a rail line to Doncaster. Trains will finally arrive when the Suburban Rail Loop project is built. Council supports the project in principle because it will deliver significant improvements to public transport accessibility within Doncaster Hill. The project will be staged. A rail station at Doncaster will be the first rail station in Suburban Rail Loop North, which is stage 2 of the project. In November last year, the Suburban Rail Loop Authority exhibited the Environment Effects Statement, including a draft planning scheme amendment for Suburban Rail Loop East, which is stage 1 of the project. The statement describes the existing environment, identifies benefits and potential impacts during its construction and operation, and proposes ways to avoid, minimize, offset, or manage any significant effects. Although the Suburban Rail Loop East Environment Effects Statement does not directly impact Manningham because we are in stage 2, the approvals framework adopted for the East will be similarly adopted for the North. So it is important for Council to seek to influence as part of the East hearing process. In December last year, Council made submission covering Council's key concerns and advocacy items, including protection, the strategic principles of Doncaster Hill, advocacy for the implementation of an express bus route mirroring the Suburban Rail Loop alignment, consultation with Council. I mean meaningful and genuine consultation. Of course, environmental performance requirements. Madam Mayor, it is imperative that Council participates in the hearings and present our views on the exhibited Environment Effects Statement and draft planning scheme amendment in the coming hearings, which will commence from next Monday until the 5th of May, and delegate our CEO the authority to make any necessary changes of the submission before the Independent Advisory Committee. And I ask my fellow councillors' support to the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Any speakers against? Any other speakers? Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Chen explained the report thoroughly. I just wanted to say that I really support Council attending these hearings, even though it's early in the process, but it really shows that the environment effects of the Suburban Rail Loop are a priority to Council, and I support that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Any further speakers? Let's put that to a vote. Those in favour? Unanimously carried. Item 13.2, Appointment of Authorised Officer, Planning and Environment Act 1987. Do I have a mover? Councillor Lightbody.
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Laura Main. Councillor Lightbody? No? Councillor Laura Main? Let's put that to a vote. Those in favour? Unanimously passed. Item 13.3, informal meetings of councillors. Do I have a mover? Councillor Conlon?
I'd like to move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Laura Main. Councillor Conlon?
Nothing to add.
We'll put that straight to a vote. Those in favour? Passed unanimously. Item 13.4, documents for sealing. Do I have a mover?
Madam Mayor, I move the motion that the alternative motion be adopted.
Councillor Lang. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Goff? Councillor Lang?
Nothing further to add, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Goff?
No, Madam Mayor.
Put that to a vote. Those in favour? Trying to keep you all awake. Unanimously passed. Item 14, notices of motion. 14.1, notice of motion by Councillor Stephen Main, NOM number 1/2022. Do I have a mover?
So moved, Madam Mayor. I'll read it out.
I think, no, you don't need to read it out.
No, so it says, as is on the papers.
It's on the papers. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lightbody? Councillor Main? Stephen Main? You have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. Now, look, first I'd just like to say that I do regret not moving an amendment last December when we voted on the community grants partnerships. I think that would have been a lot tidier to have done that at the time rather than to be revisiting the issue through this motion. But I think significant new information has come to light after the December council meeting, and hence this motion is before us tonight. So in terms of the impact, we've proposed reducing the funding to our 5 community houses from 303,000, which we gave in 2020-21, to 170,000 through the community partnership grants in calendar 22. Now that's a 44% reduction. In terms of the learning and living at Ajani in my ward, in Ruffy ward, we've actually reduced their funding from 64,640 to 25,000. Now, I've engaged with Living and Learning at Ajani since we've made this decision, and they've informed me that the 70 courses they were looking at running could now be reduced to as low as 20. The loneliness program is in jeopardy. The cafe may not be able to continue running it 4 days a week. Other funders for our community houses, well, the state government is being supportive. They've increased Living and Learning at Ajani's funding by CPI to $107,000. And now Living and Learning at Ajani is off asking Rotary and Bendigo Bank and anyone to try and fill the gap left by council. Now, as mentioned earlier, in looking at our latest quarterly report, we do have $96 million of cash in the bank. I do think this is more than any other council in Victoria. And to get our community houses up to all of them receiving $50,000, which is the maximum under the community grants program, would merely be an extra $80,000 a year. So, councillors, we do have the financial capacity to do that. What actually happened here was that our community houses used to be discreetly funded through their own program because they're tenants in our own buildings, quite unique, the 5 of them. And we decided to move them into the community grants partnership program and compete with other organisations. And we just had a magnificent 33 applications that came in. They were the strongest that we've ever had. So we were spoiled for choice. So what the officers did was they gave $50,000 to Eastern Community Legal, which does great work. Kevin Hines got $50,000. The Manningham Christian Centre got $50,000. Skateboarders got $20,000. And a whole range of other groups got good funding, and so the budget of $571,000 was lifted to $712,000. So the officers recommended a 25% increase in the budget, or $141,000 when we approved the proposed grants in December. But what I didn't realise when we did that, and we all voted unanimously to support 3 of our community houses being cut from 50 to 40 in terms of what they applied for, and 2 of them, one in my ward and the other one in the Mayor's ward, Pines Learning, being reduced from the $50,000 they applied for to just $25,000. I didn't realise until informed by officers later that they'd all received 64,000 or 54,000, a total of 303,000 in the previous year. And our community houses are in shock that coming after the pandemic, council would do this to them. Now, I don't want to get into the details of how this happened in our governance and our programs. I just want to fix it. I didn't run for council to cut my local community houses funding by more than 60% in the first year. I really didn't. So to fix this, because we've voted for a 3-year funding agreement, the only way we can reopen this discussion is by motion, by putting our hands in the air tonight. And all I'm asking you to do, councillors, is to support commissioning the officers to have a look and bring back a report to the May council meeting on whether we should do anything differently. It has suggested that we might get back to the old tried and true model of a bespoke, discrete funding agreement program just with our community houses, but they don't have to recommend that. So if we vote in favour tonight, councillors, we give it to the officers, we indicate our interest in that we're not comfortable with a 44% cut to our community houses, and the detail comes back and we can talk to them all, and we can vote in May as to whether we wish to revisit this decision. We can certainly afford it. All we're doing is commissioning a report. We can't spend money by motion under our governance procedures, so we can't fix it immediately tonight. It has to be a 2-step process. We've got 15 more seconds. We are bringing our officers in. This is 5 minutes. We are bringing our officers in for May. So councillors, please support this motion and let's show we support our community houses.
Thank you. Councillor Lightbody.
I'd like to echo the sentiment that Councillor Stephen Mayne has put forward to us. And I think while we did go through a process where we followed the community grants policy that we'd approved, and we got an outstanding number of applicants and had to work out how we were going to fund that, we in the end endorsed what the independent panel had given us. And some of us since then have identified that perhaps we need to revisit the funding arrangements for our community houses and look at what we can do in addition to that community partnerships program. So this is requesting an officer report which looks at what else is possible and what officers may or may not recommend in the future, and I look forward to seeing their recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Lightbody. Any speakers against? Councillor De Monte.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I ask a question of the CEO, please?
Yes, you may.
Have we had any formal correspondence from any of these community houses in response to their grant applications that they are indeed in shock or having trouble across the community houses from that announcement in December?
Thank you for the question, Councillor. I actually can't answer that question off the top of my head. We'd have to provide councillors with some advice unless the director's in a position to be able to provide some advice on that.
That would be Niall Shee, who is Acting Director of Planning and Community.
Thank you for the question. Officers have met with a neighbourhood house before Christmas and discussed the rationale behind the decision in regards to the reduction in funding compared to previous years. Officers explained that the new criteria established under the grant policy identified that operational matters couldn't be considered and couldn't be funded under the new policy.
Thank you. Anything to add?
Yes, sorry, can I ask a question on that?
Sure.
No, just
Councillor,
on that.
yes?
It's just that which place of Rocheview? Anemda? Ajani, thank you.
Okay. And so that was a question. Do I have any speakers against? Councillor Conlon?
Thank you, Mayor. I have a real issue with the point 1 on this note, on this motion. I can't live with that, I'm sorry. To support this is to support the implication of this statement here that somehow council's gone out of its way to target Manningham's community houses. Are very well aware through the development of a new policy, which, as Councillor Mayne mentioned, was completely successful in terms of attracting the right sort of things in terms of aligning it and our community grants program with our council plan. In terms of capping, and part of that policy was to cap all applicants to $50,000. So that's part of the reduction. That was well known. We did not make a decision on the December 14th in 2021 to cut the funding. The funding was not there. The funding had been superseded, and we had made a decision 6 months earlier to actually extend funding for that, for those houses on the basis of the policy goals, which would be better to delay processing this new round of grants until we had our council plan sorted out, so we could align the applications with our council plan. So to me, it's a total myth, and it's misleading, that first statement, and I can't live with that. And I think if we vote for this motion as it is, then we're basically endorsing mistruths and misleading statements. So I urge councillors to vote against this. In fact, the whole, even number 2, it's implying somehow that council's policy is flawed, even though we've heard it's a really good policy. The council's process is flawed. It's not. It's gone through an independent process without interference from councillors, and now we find ourselves getting back into interference. So to me, the implication, actually, the long-term implication is, if you don't like the decision of council made by an independent panel, go and ring the doorbell of your nearest councillor and give them a sob story or whatever it is, and we'll reopen it. So it's just poor governance, completely poor governance. It shouldn't be entertained, and I won't be supporting this motion in any form.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Any speakers for the motion? Councillor Romain.
For the purpose of supporting the community houses and reassessing their funding, as outlined in paragraph 2, I'm in support of this motion, though I will note that similarly I find the first paragraph of this motion misleading and somewhat unnecessary, and I do wish this had followed a different process. Thank you.
Councillor, so speakers against? Speakers for? Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If this motion is lost, I foreshadow that I will move a subsequent motion. I just wanted to say that it is knowing each one of us and also seeing how each one of us looked into the community grant application process and having it all based on priorities which supported our community. It is clear that we all want to support our community houses, and that is why we are here. We decided to join local government. Local government is residents' closest level of government. One of the core businesses of local government is to provide services and programs for our community, for their health, safety and well-being. Our neighbourhood houses provide this essential safety and well-being programs and services. Therefore, Council does support our neighbourhood houses through many community grant opportunities. Our recent community grant opportunity, which successfully had great partnership priorities, was an overwhelming success and had an increase of applicants. This shed light to just how important Council's funding to our community and to our community programs are, and how each one of us voted to increase our community funding so that we could support many organisations to support our residents. This is a credit to our council. In addition, it brought to light that our neighbourhood houses are all very different, operate a variety of services and programs to match their clients' needs and their structural design. And they may need more support in the future to do that and to continue to bring our community together to socialise, to be healthy, to be safe as we come out of a pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Any speakers against? Councillor Chen.
It takes great courage to speak against community housing about the allocation funding, because I'm personally, as a councillor, I'm happy to give more, whoever they want the money. No one will say no to $1 more than what they should get. But we have a process. And we are also bound to look after our public money to maximize the community benefit. Out of the 33 applications, there are 25 successful. They all provide very good community programs and to try to maximize the benefits to the community. And I am at loss to wonder why we favor only 5 community houses, but not the others who are not able to get the maximum money allocated for them. I believe that if we open the door for them, they will all have a reason to say we need more. And recently, I found the information on the website, not on council's website, about a local council who said that council allocate $3 million for the community partnership program for the whole 4 years. And I just get a little bit lost because that council is much bigger than Manningham Council. And they have more operating budget and revenue than Manningham. And look at this allocation of funding, we nearly allocate $5 million, which is a big deal. In a rate-capping environment, we need to spend every single dollar carefully, especially we, as councillors just mentioned, we went through a very, very strict process according to the policy and guidelines that is open to the public, and the panel assessed the allocation according to the policy. And mind the councillors, this is the policy we all agree with in our July council meeting. Why didn't we have a problem with that? And I have a copy of the of one page of that of the guidelines. They allocate a lot of bullet points that what council would not fund. So I don't mind to give more money if we are happy. If we just say that, okay, that's fine, and you all say that you are, no community organization will say no, say we don't have community benefit. But the thing is, the due process is the core of our democracy and is the core of our local business governance. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Any speakers for? Any other speakers?
Question first, Madam.
Question, Councillor Goff?
My question is, do neighbourhood houses pay rent? And
Refer that question to the CEO.
They pay a nominal rent, councillor.
which would be what?
I might check that with.
$1, $5?
My understanding is about 283 per annum.
Madam Mayor, my reluctance to vote for this motion is part one, so perhaps, I don't know whether I can move an amendment to remove part one and part two, I suppose. But seriously, it's the process in which we get to the table here today that I find worrying in the direction that we are going. Yes, a person has an ability to bring a motion to a table and put it up and people vote on it. But it's coming up. It hasn't come up for the last few weeks, last few months, but it's come up on numerous occasions where we're in here on again talking about things that we haven't got enough background on and don't know the exact positions of, what we're going to be voting on, and we've got an offensive statement in number 1. And we're going to stand here and vote for or against it, and it'll be termed in people supporting these people, or we're so rich at Manningham, we've got money to give away. These are the ways that we're being forced here to make a decision on this, and I find that disappointing of people like Manningham, who at the start said that we will sit down, well, no surprises, and we won't force things through like this. This came up a week ago as an issue from one person that complained. Now, if I came to council, Madam Mayor, and put in a motion for every time someone complained to me about something or got something, we'd be having motions all the time, and that's not the way in which you run things. Now, this could have... To make the statement that it's the only way you can get action on this is incorrect. There's a lot councillors can do without motions going through council, and there's a lot councillors can do at the end by asking a question, and we can ask a question there about what we can look at to review funding and things like that. But that hasn't been the option that's taken. It's this confrontational, I'm going to shove it in your face and I'm going to force you to vote this way or the next. Listen, I support those community houses. I support the work that they do. But I do know that council build their buildings for them. We do their extensions for them. We do get a little bit of that money back. We pay for programs for them to run. We support them greatly. We support them to the extent that Donvale Living and Learning is now the Pines Living and Learning, and that is a huge operation. And a lot of the programs that these people run are funded, get federal, they get money to run programs, and they make money out of those programs too. And they run very good programs, and they're very good. And especially the one at Ajani is very good, especially with its disabled cafe and the work that goes in there. It's magical work. But we could get a better way of getting that funding than running a divisive motion. And I feel strongly about the way in which Manningham goes with regard to divisive motions coming up in a way in which we're governing uninformed.
Time. Thank you, Councillor Goff. Any speakers for the motion? Any other speakers? Councillor Stephen Mayne, would you like to close?
Yes, just to quickly close for a couple of minutes. Look, firstly, I would have liked to have moved an amendment, as I said, in December, but Councillor Goff and Councillor Diamonte were apologies that night, and I didn't think it was appropriate to try and get the numbers with only 7 in the room, knowing both of the positions that you'd taken earlier in the year, last March. I didn't just raise this in the last week. I sent emails immediately after the December meeting, reflecting the concerns that have been raised by the community, and I raised it at SBS 3 or 4 weeks ago. In terms of whether it's a factual statement, we've received an email from a senior officer itemising the $303,000 that was paid to the 5 community houses in 2021. We voted for $170,000. It's not 40%, it's actually 44%, if you'd like to be factual. It is very easy to talk about grants policy by rounding up the 4 years to come up with a big figure of $5 million. Well, we can also round up council's revenue for 4 years and come up with a figure of $624 million. So $5 million is only 0.8%. It is a drop in the bucket when you've got $96 million of cash in the bank, in addition to $624 million of revenue to fund this policy. Now, Councillor Conlon made the comment that the decision was made by the independent panel. The decision was not made by the independent panel. The decision was made by the voting councillors. The independent panel just gave advice. In March last year, some of the same officers on the panel gave advice to the councillors to roll the funding for 6 months to our community houses, and 4 of you chose to ignore that advice and vote against and try and make a totally different decision on the floor, on the fly, ignoring the advice from the officers. So I think we need to be consistent in the way we look at this, and I'd ask councillors to put this to bed by acknowledging that normally you have a no losers policy at council if you can afford it. We've got a significant loser here impact, and we can fix it by intervening now that we have full information in front of us.
Thank you, Councillor Mayne. I'll put that to the motion. Those for? Councillor Stephen Mayne, Councillor Thomas Lightbody, Councillor Laura Mayne. Those against? Councillor Carly Lang, Councillor Deirdre De Monte, Councillor Jeff Goff, Councillor Anna Chen, Councillor Andrew Conlon, Councillor Kleinert. That was lost. I have a foreshadowing motion. A subsequent foreshadowing motion. Yep. Big colour. Yep.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move the subsequent motion that requests office...
Sorry, Councillor, can you just take off your mask when you're speaking? Sorry, just it muffles a bit.
Sorry. No problem. I would like to move the subsequent motion that says that Council requests officers to prepare a report on how Council can further support our neighbourhood houses.
That Council requests that officers prepare a report
on how Council can further support our neighbourhood houses.
We don't make to repair the report as well, must it? But we can prepare it first.
After officers, it's report that Council requests that officers report. Thank you.
Prepare a report.
Yep.
Yeah, you had it right.
To prepare a report.
Just too many requests.
We don't
Okay.
actually, it's that council officers prepare a report in their motion. Not council requests.
That officers prepare a report.
Request officers.
No, just officers.
Officers, yep.
That council officers prepare
Prepare
a
a
report.
That's it.
that council officers
Prepare a report on how Council can further support our neighbourhood houses.
Very simple.
Okay. So that's Councillor Lang's motion.
SPS, as an SPS.
So
So therefore, ready for our May Council meeting as, so that,
wanted to come to an
to
SPS
SPS.
prior
Yep, prior to a
to
May
to
Council
May
meeting.
council
I'm going
meeting.
as the rest of the report.
We need to get the report.
Yep,
And we go.
Which
an
comes before.
SPS report before the council meeting.
Go to the next one. We go on with that. But you want it.
Okay, so that's Councillor Lang is moving it. While that's going up on the screen, do I have a seconder? That it does get seconded? That's Councillor De Monte. All right, I'll just wait for a second so we'll make sure that they've got the wording right. And then it's recorded that we have a mover. Okay? Naturally goes through the process.
Yeah, agreed.
You
It'll
tied
be,
it to a...
it'll be in line with the budget.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll just wait until I get the nod from the officers before we proceed with the debate. Okay. All right, so I have a mover, it's Councillor Lang. I have a seconder, which is Councillor Deirdre de Monte. Councillor Lang, do you want to speak to that motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Fellow councillors, supporting our neighbourhood houses has never been more important. One of local government's core businesses is supporting and providing services and programs for our community, their health and wellbeing. Our local neighbourhood houses provide many of these services and programs for our community to help residents feel connected, stay safe and healthy and well, and support their mental health and wellbeing. Local council's role is to support our neighbourhood houses to provide these essential socialisation and active programs for our community. As I said before, our recent community grant program successfully had great partnership priorities with many organisations and had an overwhelming increase in applicants, shedding light to just how important council funding is. We agreed to increase our community funding budget to help organisations provide these programs, which is a credit to council. In addition, this process brought to light that our neighbourhood houses, who do operate very differently, with varied services and programs that have needs that meet their community, that they may need further support to encourage and help their communities to safely reconnect, especially after coming out of a world pandemic. This motion tonight seeks our officers to consider further ways to assist or grant opportunities that could be available for our neighbourhood houses to meet this essential health, wellbeing and socialisation needs of our community. Each neighbourhood house has a different point of need according to its clients, structure and services. Therefore, we should keep this in mind as we investigate ways to support our neighbourhood houses. Enabling our core business of local government is to provide services and programs for our community, for their safety and wellbeing. Therefore, I ask my fellow councillors to support this research motion that involves looking at ways to assist our neighbourhood houses in the future to support our community through programs and services for our residents' health and wellbeing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Councillor de Monte?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few quick words. So, like my fellow councillors, absolutely I support the neighbourhood houses and the work that the neighbourhood houses do, and like my fellow councillors, I also support the proper use of, I was going to say our money, but it's not council's money, it's everybody's money, which could include us as ratepayers, but it is ratepayers' money, and we absolutely have an obligation to be fair with how we use that and responsible for how we use that. And as Councillor Stephen Mayne said, we are in a very strong financial position, and it gives us an opportunity to do more and to support many community groups. But we have an obligation to do that in a fair and open and considered manner, not just for now and not just for our term, but for future terms to come. So I support Councillor Lang's motion in getting further information so that we can make informed decisions at the future May Council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor de Monte. Any speakers against the motion? Question, Councillor Conlon?
Could I just clarify, the motion that we are voting on is that council officers prepare a report on how council can further support our neighbourhood houses for May 2022.
Correct.
Thank you. That's fine.
Councillor Lang? Is that the motion that you want?
I'm just clarifying for May. I just want to know that means the May council meeting where we can make a decision.
Yes.
Not that we were only supporting the neighbourhood houses in May. I just want to be very clear with the wording.
Council meeting.
For that May 2022 council.
Poor decision.
her report for the...
And just at the end.
Correct. Now I realise why. You don't have a screen.
Is there a lag?
That's it?
Or almost.
Okay. There we go. So Councillor Lang, your motion is that council officers prepare a report for the May 2022 council meeting on how council can further support our neighbourhood houses. Clarifying for those that are watching that that's the motion that's before. Had a mover, I've had a seconder, I've had a question. For clarity, did you want to speak?
I'm happy to speak for it, but I'm not, so I won't speak against it.
Okay, any speakers against? No. Did you want any other speakers? Thank you, Councillor Conlon.
Thank you, and I'm glad that we've come to a more sensible motion that actually reflects what we could probably live with, rather than a derogatory one about the processes of council. So I appreciate the Councillor Lang putting this alternative motion, and I support it, and I do. Believe it or not, I do support neighbourhood houses, and I'm looking forward to seeing how we can assist them in a good governance way. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other speakers? Councillor, I'm going to go Councillor Chen.
Again, I'm quite happy to support the alternative motion because I noticed that further support, because we all know that community housing is very important to our community, and further support, not only financial support, there also means other supports that we can possibly get for the community housing. For example, advocacy for more funding from the state and federal government for the community houses is another way of support we can offer for our community housings. That is the way that I think that is beautifully drafted, and I will be quite happy to support the alternative motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Chen. Councillor Stephen Mayne.
Yes, I would like to thank the bridge builder, Councillor Lang, for coming up with a popular solution. I enjoyed all the straight talk from the colleagues this evening, and we'll certainly take on board all that has been said for future debate. I think that the 170 that we've approved last December can be further supported, and I look forward to further supporting it at the May council meeting, which incidentally is also when our draft budget
Councillor Lang, did you want to close? Or
Nothing further to add, Madam Mayor.
let's put it to a vote. Those in favour of the motion? Unanimously carried. Thank you, councillors. Item 15, urgent business. There's no items of urgent business. Item 16, council reports and question time. Councillors, does anyone wish to provide a report or raise a question? Councillor Del Monte.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a question. So, councillors, Clean Up Australia Day is coming up on Saturday the 6th of March. This is a great opportunity for all of us to collectively clean up our beautiful city. And I know many of you don't just wait for one day, it's an ongoing process. I understand Manningham has allocated a support officer for residents that register a Clean Up Australia Day site on the website. However, can Council register Manningham sites on that Clean Up Australia Day website to generate interest and activity across Manningham, even within our wards?
Thank you, Councillor Diamonte. Mr. CEO? Rochelle. I'll refer that to Rochelle Quattrocchi, Director of Services, City Services.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and Councillor Diamonte for your question. Yes, we are a strong supporter of Clean Up Australia Day, and we do have a dedicated officer that's actually available to help community groups if they want to participate within that day. There's contact details on the Clean Up Australia site. I recommend that people who are interested that actually contact or register through the site, and the details of our officer is there. They can also contact us as well through our website to make more inquiries. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Great. Councillor Chen, question?
Madam Mayor, I have one information update and one question for officers, if I may. Madam Mayor, as you may aware, Manningham Council is a member of Metropolitan Transport Forum, which represents 26 councils, Melbourne councils on transport issues. And we all know that 2022 is the election year. The Metropolitan Transport Forum will hold a free online forum, Cycling and the Federation Election, this Thursday at 6:30, and to hear what all major parties will do to support cycling. More information on how to register can be found on ntf.org.au. So this is the information that we provided to the public. And my question is about street sweeping. Street sweeping is an important council operation to keep Manningham clean and prevent waste from entering our waterways and catchments. To address queries from our community, can officers advise how often street sweeping is conducted? How can the public find out which day the street is swept? Is the information available on our website? My last question is, will Council consider a review on the effectiveness of our street sweeping program? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
I might refer that to the Director of City Services.
Rochelle Quattrocchi, Director of City Services, to respond. Popular night tonight for you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Chen, for your question. We do have a street sweeping program, and it runs on an 8 to 12 week cycle for local roads within our residential street areas. We also have a program that runs fortnightly for footpaths and laneways within shopping precincts, car parks and busy areas within shopping precincts on a 9 to fortnightly cycle. Our car parks within our reserves are on a monthly cycle and underpasses on a bi-monthly cycle. We also increase the frequency of the street sweeping in certain areas during seasonal weather events, such as autumn and summer, when debris from trees has fallen onto our streets. In addition to that, we do respond at request following a storm event, traffic incidents or oil spills, etc. Department of Transport are responsible for sweeping of arterial roads. However, we have on request attended where needed to make sure the streets are kept safe and responded to certain issues. In terms of what's available on our website, Councillor, that is something that we can look at updating to make sure that's available for the community. We do review our program regularly to ensure its efficiency and look at areas that we may need to increase the frequency of our program. We are also talking to Department of Transport about the arterial road network and the maintenance of those roads. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Rochelle. Councillor Goff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And there's an issue that the community have come to me, and I've been talking to other councillors, and it's one that has been raised to other councillors, and that is the state of our roads, roadsides, footpaths, median strips, and traffic islands, with weeds growing up to a metre tall out of the cracks in quite numerous areas. And I must say, Madam Mayor, this is not just restricted to Manningham. Every main road I go along is overgrown, weeds coming out and weeds growing between the bitumen and the curb. Driving around Melbourne these days starts looking like driving around a disaster site after a huge accident has occurred. It really is poor. My question is what are we doing about that, and what can we do to get big roads to do theirs, or is it us, or what processes and what can we do on that?
Thank you, Councillor Goff. Mr CEO.
I'll hand over to the Director of City Services to talk about what we're doing locally, but regionally wise, we're certainly aware that that is an issue. It's been a topic of conversation and discussion at our Eastern Region group of councils, CEO level and also council level. So certainly aware that there's some work that needs to be done in terms of advocating back to state government in terms of funding, because in some instances councils are paid to maintain some of those roads and it's less than what it costs to do that. But also advocating Vic Roads and indeed, sorry, I should say Department of Transport and indeed the state government to raise the bar in terms of maintaining their infrastructure from not just roads but also right across the east in rail reserves and water company infrastructure and the like as well. But I'll hand over to the Director of City Services to talk about what we're doing locally.
Rochelle Quattrocchi, Director of City Services. And it might go on record that we write to the Department of Transport in our disappointment that it has been recorded at a council meeting. I'll note that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Councillor Goff, for your question. In terms of locally, we do actually have a road maintenance program that's been in existence for quite a period of time. Department of Transport do contribute to that, but only partially. The total costs for vegetation clearing, mowing, tree clearing, planting is included within that contract, but the total costs are not paid solely by Department of Transport, and it applies to the main arterial roads, not local streets. Street sweeping and drainage maintenance is not included. That's the responsibility of the Department of Transport. Whilst our roadside maintenance program has been in existence for some period of time, only recently have we introduced a spraying program that has included spraying of the weeds and removal. This has only recently occurred, and over time our residents will see a huge increase in that across our city. We will continue to advocate to the state government and work with Department of Transport, as mentioned by Andrew Day, our CEO, that we are working closely with DOT and looking at a partnership type arrangement or how we can improve maintenance across not only our local areas but the main arterial roads within our council area. Thank you for your question.
Follow-up question, Councillor Goff?
Yeah, the follow-up question is are we able to get rid of the dead weeds a metre tall and the stalks that are growing out of concrete in triangular and medium strips and roundabouts and things like that? Are we able to do that, or do they have to stay there until nature gets rid of them in 100 years?
Councillor Goff, we will get rid of those, and that's part of the spraying program and the removal of the weeds. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions or reports? Wonderful. All right. All right, item 17, confidential reports. I'll get you to come to the Rochelle Quattrocchi.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I wish to declare a conflict of interest. Councillors, I wish to disclose that I have a conflict of interest for this confidential item, the interest being a material conflict of interest due to my role as an interim director, board member of the South Eastern Metropolitan Advanced Waste Processing Company. I will be leaving the meeting and will not participate in this item. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Do I have a mover for the confidential reports?
Madam Mayor, I move the item.
Councillor Lang?
Can I make the motion?
Oh, sorry. Isn't that to close the meeting?
Yeah, I move the motion to close the meeting, Madam Mayor.
Read the whole motion.
Yep.
Isn't that the close it to the public?
Madam Mayor, can I please read the motion to close the meeting to the public? That Council close the meeting to the public pursuant to sections 66(1) and 66(2)(a) of the Local Government Act 2020, to consider item 17.1, South East Metropolitan Advanced Waste Processing Project. Council commitment, collaborative procurement for the advanced waste processing solutions concerning council business information, being information that would prejudice the council's position in commercial negotiations if prematurely released.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Diamonte, and we'll just put that to a vote. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you. We will be ending the live stream of this meeting to commence our closed meeting. Thank you for joining us online this evening.